Some people don't destroy you with weapons. They destroy you with whispers and then watch as the world turns against you. Now imagine this for a moment, chosen one, standing in the middle of a crowded room, completely innocent, yet feeling every eye on you filled with suspicion and judgment. You didn't commit a crime. You didn't harm anyone. All you did was exist in your truth, and that alone was enough to make them furious. Like wolves smelling blood that isn't even there, they circled, ready to tear down your name. The disgusting part? They knew you were innocent, but the thrill of watching you suffer was more tempting than the truth itself. And here's the cold fact. Humans are wired to believe the first story they hear, no matter how twisted it is. And once that seed of doubt is planted, it grows fast. Research even shows that false accusations spread 6 times faster than the truth. That's why the attack on you felt like a storm you couldn't see coming. You didn't get a fair trial. They sentenced you in the court of public opinion before you could even speak. And thank you, chosen one. Don't forget to pay this message back by simply pressing the like and subscribe to help spread this message to more souls, as it's the responsibility of all of us to spread the light. And thank you, chosen one, for being part of this mission. You are part of a force. Now let's come back to it. Your world shattered the moment the messages started flooding in. Screenshots, rumors, and twisted lies about you spread like wildfire through group chats and social circles. All of this because you dared to stand in your truth and speak about what you saw. It was the price of being unshakably honest in a world that prefers comfortable lies. Years of trust and genuine friendship evaporated in mere hours, as if none of it ever mattered. While you sat at home trying to piece together how everything flipped so fast, they were busy rewriting history to make you the villain. The same people who once laughed at your jokes, shared meals at your table, and called you family were now rehearsing their betrayal like a performance they had been preparing for. And make no mistake, this wasn't random. It was calculated. They wanted to strip you of your dignity, to make you question your worth, to isolate you so completely that you'd beg for their approval again. They attacked not because you were guilty, but because your light exposed their shadows. The universe has a way of putting the chosen ones in situations that test not just their strength, but their ability to hold on to their identity when the crowd is against them. This is one of those moments. They wanted to see you crumble. They wanted to break the one thing they couldn't buy or fake, your spirit. But here's what they underestimated. Chosen ones don't just survive attacks like this, they transform through them. The dirt they throw at you becomes the soil that grows your resilience. You see, chosen one, the outrage you're feeling now, the disbelief, the sting of betrayal, is mirrored by countless others who have watched injustice unfold in their own lives. That's why people are furious on your behalf. They recognize the cruelty. They see the innocence. And deep down, they know this attack says more about your enemies than it ever will about you. What they did to you wasn't just personal. It was a public display of cowardice, the kind that will eventually come back to haunt them. Because no matter how fast lies travel, the truth always finds its way through. And the beauty of it? Every person who watched you take this hit and still stand will remember it. Not as a story of defeat, but as proof that you can't be destroyed by rumors, envy, or small-minded schemes. What they thought would end you is only going to make your name ring louder. They can attack an innocent person, but they can't erase the evidence of who you truly are. So, are you ready to walk with me through every detail of what really went down? Chosen one? Step by step, we're going to expose the ugly truth behind what they did to you and why it has the world talking. Drop a comment below with the words, "I stand," if you refuse to let their lies define you. Because this isn't just a story, it's your name, your innocence, your life. And the way they tried to twist it is beyond disgusting. If you truly carry the fire of a chosen one, you'll feel it in your bones to stay until the very end of this message. Because every second will remind you why their attack says more about them than it ever will about you. Now, let's begin. Number 1. The web of lies is finally strangling the spiders who wove it. They built their empire on lies but forgot one thing. The truth doesn't knock, it kicks the door in. Chosen one, imagine this for a moment. You're standing in the middle of your life, minding your own path, when suddenly you hear whispers behind you. At first you think it's nothing, but the whispers grow into stories, and the stories morph into accusations so outrageous that you almost laugh, until you see people believing them. That's when it hits you. These weren't random rumors. This was an orchestrated hit on your name. They didn't just lie about you. They invested in your destruction like it was their personal mission. And here's the delicious irony. They thought their lies would be bulletproof. But lies are like glass. They can look solid until pressure builds, and then they shatter. Phone records don't lie. Location data doesn't lie. Saved messages, screenshots, eyewitness accounts, none of it lies. These are the sharp blades cutting through the web they spun. And now, one by one, those who once felt so confident, whispering in the shadows, are starting to choke on their own poison. The truth is walking straight toward them, and it doesn't care how loudly they try to talk over it. Do you know why they came after you, chosen one? Because your presence alone was a disruption. You didn't play their games, you didn't follow their rules, and worst of all for them, you didn't need their approval. In their twisted little kingdom, control is their currency, and you refusing to bow meant they couldn't own you. That scared them more than anything. So they marked you, not with open threats, that would make them visible, but with a silence so heavy it made rooms feel colder. With subtle blocks to your opportunities, with invisible walls you didn't even know you were climbing until you reached the top, breathless, and realized they had been watching every move. But here's what eats them alive. You never folded. They tried to engineer your downfall in slow motion, betting on the day you'd collapse under the weight of the obstacles they placed in your path. You didn't, and that infuriates them. It's why their attacks escalated from hidden sabotage to outright character assassination. They needed you gone, not just physically, but in the eyes of everyone else. And for that, they told lies so bold they thought nobody would question them. Yet the universe has a strange sense of timing. The same mouths that lied are starting to tremble. People who once swallowed their stories whole are now spitting them out, realizing they've been fed poison. Witnesses are stepping forward, not out of kindness, but because the truth has a way of making cowards uncomfortable. And as the facts pile up, the weight of their own deceit is turning into a noose. They wanted you buried under rumors. Instead, they're the ones sinking in quicksand. Some of you might be wondering, why didn't they just confront you directly? Because the truth terrifies a liar. Facing you would mean risking the collapse of their carefully crafted narrative. Confronting you would mean opening the door for your side of the story, and they knew it would dismantle theirs in seconds. So they chose the coward's route, attacking from behind, hiding in groups, making sure their lies spread faster than you could defend yourself. But here's the reality check for them. Time always runs out. A lie can sprint ahead for a while, but the truth is a marathon runner. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't stop. It doesn't care how far ahead the lie thinks it is. It will catch up, and when it does, it won't just expose them. It will humiliate them. The same crowd they convinced to hate you will turn on them, because nothing tastes worse than realizing you've been manipulated. You've got to understand, chosen one, that what they did to you wasn't a simple smear. It was psychological warfare. They wanted to dismantle your credibility so thoroughly that even if you spoke, your words would carry no weight. They wanted to erase your influence, your connections, your support system. And yet here you are, still standing, still speaking, still carrying a light they couldn't dim no matter how much dirt they threw. That alone is your victory. There's something poetic about watching them squirm now. The same mouths that shouted your downfall are struggling to form sentences when confronted with proof. The same eyes that rolled in mockery now avoid your gaze entirely. And the same hands that typed their lies into messages are deleting them frantically, as if erasing the evidence will erase the guilt. It won't. The universe remembers. The people remember. And most importantly, you remember. Let me be brutally clear. What they did was disgusting. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a deliberate choice to destroy an innocent person, and that stain will follow them longer than they ever imagined. They underestimated the chosen one they were dealing with. They thought they could break you quietly and move on, but they've awakened something far more dangerous than their lies, a chosen one with nothing left to lose. and the truth at their back. And that's why this moment is not just about surviving their attack, it's about using it. Every whisper against you is a spark to fuel your fire. Every false story is a reminder that you must be doing something worth envying. You don't rise to this level of targeted hatred unless you're a threat to the comfortable lies they live in. That's your power. That's your proof. So let them squirm under the weight of their own deceit. Let them feel the walls close in, because the very web they spun to catch you is now wrapping around their own throats. And when the final thread snaps and they're exposed for what they are, the world will see exactly what you already knew. They attacked an innocent person, and they will pay the price for it. Number 2, when the first strike fails, they come back wearing a different mask. If they can't kill you in the storm, they'll try to lure you into calm waters so they can drown you slowly. Chosen one, imagine this. You've just survived their first attack, the one where they threw everything at you in the open. You're battered, but standing. You think maybe now they'll leave you alone, but that's when you notice the shift. The knives disappear, the war cries go silent, and instead of enemies charging toward you, you see smiles, open arms, voices speaking of peace. It feels wrong. It feels staged. And you're right, it is. Because when destruction fails in daylight, they simply change strategy and come for you under the cover of kindness. They couldn't break your bones, so now they aim for your mind. Every blow they threw at you before only taught you how to withstand pressure. Every obstacle they put in your way only proved your ability to climb higher than they expected. You became a lesson they didn't want to learn. Proof that their usual methods weren't enough. So they adapted, not to strike you down directly this time, but to plant seeds of doubt inside you. They wanted you to question if you were ever standing tall in the first place. Have you noticed how predators hunt when brute force doesn't work? They stop chasing and start waiting. They lay traps, they play dead, they pretend to be harmless until the prey steps close enough to be caught. That's exactly what these people did. They traded their swords for poisoned hands, hands that would offer you comfort while slipping venom under your skin. Not all poison is poured into your cup. Some is whispered in your ear. They began speaking of balance, submission, and surrender as if these were the highest forms of wisdom. They wrapped their chains in silk and called it peace. And here's the most dangerous part. They've done this before. Many before you have fallen for it. They've buried countless people in shallow graves, not of earth, but of disbelief. Graves where the body still moves, but the spirit has stopped fighting. Imagine this. You're climbing a mountain, wind in your face, muscles burning, but you're so close to the peak. Suddenly, someone appears on the trail ahead, smiling warmly. They tell you there's no need to keep climbing, that the view up top isn't worth the pain. They offer you a seat, a warm drink, and a story about how they once climbed too, and it only led to disappointment. It sounds almost reasonable until you realize they never made it to the top themselves. They just don't want you to see what they couldn't. And here's the truth they can't say out loud. They fear you. They fear a power in you that doesn't play by their rules, a force in you that isn't tethered to their approval or limited by their boundaries. They fear your refusal to be redefined by them. Because if you can live without needing their validation, their entire system of control collapses. The strongest walls aren't built of stone. They're built of the lies you believe about yourself. That's why this strategy is so dangerous. The first attack was about damaging your reputation in the eyes of others. This attack is about damaging your reputation in your own eyes. If they can convince you that you were never that strong, that your victories were luck, that your vision is flawed, then they don't need to fight you. You'll fight yourself. You might be wondering, how do I know when they've switched strategies? The signs are subtle. Suddenly, people who once mocked you are complimenting you. People who avoided you are now eager to help. They start speaking in a language of unity and compromise, but every suggestion they make requires you to shrink a little. Every kind piece of advice requires you to give up a part of yourself. Imagine this. You're a candle burning bright in a dark room. At first, they tried to blow you out, violently, again and again. You guarded your flame, and it survived. Now they don't blow. They cup their hands around you, pretending to shield you from the wind. But while they're close, they slowly pinch your wick shorter and shorter until your light is dim enough to control. That's their game now. They failed to crush you, so they've come to convince you to crush yourself. This is psychological warfare at its most insidious. It doesn't look like an attack. There are no raised voices, no public humiliations. Instead, it comes wrapped in politeness, in false concern, in carefully chosen words meant to make you second-guess your instincts. It's manipulation disguised as mentorship. And here's what you must remember, chosen one. You didn't survive the storm just to be lulled into a false calm. You didn't endure the lies, the attacks, the betrayal, only to hand them victory by agreeing to shrink yourself. You're not here to fit their definition of safe, acceptable, or manageable. You're here to burn so brightly that even their shadows can't survive. The universe has a way of testing chosen ones like this. First with the obvious enemy, then with the hidden one. The first fight builds your strength, the second one tests your discernment. Anyone can stand against a direct attack, but it takes a warrior to see through a smile that hides a blade. And that's what you're being asked to do now. You see, the reason they've changed strategy is because the first one failed spectacularly. They couldn't get you to quit when they made you the villain in everyone's eyes. They couldn't make you crumble when they isolated you. They couldn't erase you when they tried to bury your name. Now they're gambling that if they approach differently, soft, friendly, understanding, you'll finally let them close enough to finish what they started. But here's the part they can't plan for. You've learned too much. You know what their hands feel like when they're cutting your rope. You recognize the tone they use when they're hiding their true intention. You've studied their patterns, even if you didn't realize it at the time. You can smell the poison under the perfume. If you've walked through fire, you'll always recognize the smell of smoke. That's why you won't fall for it. You've been burned once, and you'll never let them light the match again. And when they realize they can't get to you, when every smile, every kind word, every false gesture fails, they'll know the truth. They've lost. Not just the battle, but the war. Because here's the thing, chosen one, people like this don't stop because they've changed their hearts. They stop because they've run out of ways to win. And when they see that you can't be baited, can't be lured, can't be made to question your own worth, they'll retreat. They'll find someone else to manipulate. And you'll stand even taller, not just because you survived, but because you saw through the game entirely. And that's when the real victory happens. Not when you just outlast the storm, but when you learn how to walk in the sun without letting anyone steal your shadow. Number 3, the rise they couldn't stop even if they burned the sky. They didn't fail because you were lucky. They failed because you were inevitable. Chosen one, their biggest mistake wasn't in the lies they told or the traps they set. It was believing they could stop what was destined to happen. They thought your strength came from their approval, that your climb depended on their permission, but you were never standing at their door, waiting for it to open. You were building your own fortress, brick by brick, while they were too busy plotting your fall. Imagine this. You're a river flowing down a mountain. They can throw rocks, build dams, even poison the water. But a river doesn't ask for a clear path. It carves one. And no matter how many times they tried to divert you, you kept moving, finding new channels, wearing down the very walls they thought would hold you. That's why they fear you, because no matter what they did, your rise didn't just continue, it accelerated. When they saw control slipping from their fingers, desperation took over. They started talking about endings as if they still held the script of your life. They tried to convince you that your story was over, that the best chapters had already been written, and that without them, you'd fade into silence. But what they didn't understand is that you had already taken the pen from their trembling hands. The plot had changed, and they weren't the authors anymore. Here's a fact they can't bear to face. Once a chosen one realizes they never needed the chains, there's nothing left to bind them. You were not their conquest, not their project, not their victory. You were the living proof of a force they swore could never exist. An unowned, unbroken, unstoppable presence. And maybe they'll spend the rest of their lives telling people they almost had you. Let them. That's their consolation prize. But you and I both know the truth. They never stood a chance. The rise of the chosen one isn't a miracle. It's the natural consequence of refusing to kneel. And that, chosen one, is why you're still here and why they're still looking over their shoulders, wondering when the universe will make them answer for what they did to an innocent soul. Number 4, the fear that eats them alive every time they hear your name. They don't hate you because you're wrong. They hate you because you're proof they're not as powerful as they pretend to be. Chosen one, their fear of you isn't logical, it's instinctive. You walk into a room, and it's like a sudden drop in temperature. Conversations shift, eyes dart away, and somewhere in the corner, someone's grinding their teeth just hearing your name. Why? Because your very existence calls out their weakness. You didn't kneel, you didn't beg, and you didn't bend to fit their idea of who you should be. That alone is enough to make them see you as a threat. Imagine this. You're a storm rolling in over a city of glass towers. They've spent years building those towers to look solid, unshakable. But when you arrive, the wind howls, the glass trembles, and they know one more gust could shatter it all. That's how your presence feels to them. Dangerous not because you intend to destroy, but because you refuse to play along with their illusions. They whisper that you're reckless, unpredictable, dangerous. But here's the question. Does a ruler fear a nameless wanderer? Does an empire tremble at someone who holds no power? No. The only reason they resist you this much is because deep down, they know you're not powerless at all. You're the force they never accounted for in their plans. You're the one who moves through their carefully crafted lies like a blade through silk. You didn't kick their throne over. You just kept walking, and they couldn't stand it. That's the real wound. They didn't lose control because you fought them for it. They lost control because you never needed it in the first place. And every time they see you standing tall without their approval, it's like salt in that wound. The truth is, their fear is the loudest confession they'll ever give. They can dress it up as concern, disguise it as moral outrage, or paint you as the villain. But it's all the same thing. They're scared. Scared of your independence. Scared of your resilience. Scared of the fact that no matter how hard they try to race you, you keep showing up. Stronger, louder, and more undeniable than before. Fear makes liars out of the boldest cowards. In Chosen One, their fear of you is the clearest proof you've already won. Number 5. Their attacks are the proof you've already shaken their throne. No one wages war on what they don't fear. Chosen One, every time they come for you, they're admitting something they'll never say out loud. You matter. They claw at your foundation, not because it's weak, but because it's unshakable. They drip poison into the air, hoping enough of it will cloud your vision and make you hesitate. But hesitation belongs to those still seeking permission to exist. And you? You were never waiting for their nod of approval. Imagine this. You're building a tower in the open, brick by brick. From the sidelines, they laugh, they scoff, they predict it'll crumble. But the higher it grows, the quieter their laughter gets. And then one night, when they think no one's watching, they sneak up with hammers trying to chip at the base. Why? Because deep down, they know it's going to stand. They know it will outlast them. If you were truly insignificant, they'd ignore you entirely. But they don't. They gather in back rooms, behind locked doors, whispering your name like it's a threat to their survival. They spin lies, rally allies, and throw every obstacle they can in your path. You don't waste energy plotting against someone who can't touch you. You only move like this when you know they can. And that's the part they'll never admit. Their resistance isn't a sign you're wrong. It's the clearest confirmation that you're doing exactly what you're meant to do. They wouldn't be working this hard to silence you if your voice wasn't carrying weight. They wouldn't burn this much energy trying to derail you if your path wasn't leading somewhere powerful. They flood the air with doubt because they know confidence is your weapon. They try to stir fear because they know courage is your fuel. But all they've really done is hand you evidence. Proof that you are exactly what you've always known yourself to be. The walls they build to stop you are just billboards advertising their fear. So when they push Chosen One, don't see it as a burden. See it as the loudest signal yet. You're the one who can undo everything they built, and they know it. Number 6. When the crowd turns, the enemy's walls start to shake. You can't silence truth without waking the voices of those who've been waiting to scream it. Chosen one, there's a point where the lies against you grow so grotesque that even the silence start to stir. And that's where you are now. Their attacks on you have lit a fire in the hearts of people who've been watching quietly from the sidelines. This isn't polite concern. This isn't sympathy. This is fury. It's the kind of rage that spreads fast like a match to dry grass, unstoppable once it starts. Imagine this. You're standing in a marketplace and someone shoves you to the ground for no reason. At first, the crowd freezes, unsure. But then one voice shouts, "That's wrong!" And another joins, and another, until the noise is deafening. That's what's happening now. The masses have seen the injustice. They've seen the innocence in you and the rot in them. And now the roar is building. A mob doesn't gather for the powerless. It gathers when the powerful cross the line. The people's fury is not born from pity. It's born from recognition. They see you for what you are, the pivot point, the one who can turn the entire weight of justice with a single move. That's why the backlash against your enemies feels like an earthquake. You are the fault line they never accounted for. When the dark force struck you, they weren't just attacking one person. They were spitting in the face of something bigger, the unspoken order that keeps balance. The crowd feels that imbalance in their bones. It doesn't need explaining, it's primal. They know when something is wrong, and their outrage is the universe itself rallying through human voices. The beauty of this moment is that it can't be faked. You can buy silence, you can pay for fake praise, but you can't manufacture the raw, unfiltered fury of people who've seen enough. Every angry voice is a crack in your enemy's walls. Every shared word of support is a hammer strike against their false empire. They thought they could bury you quietly, but the people came with shovels. And chosen one, once the crowd starts digging for the truth, no one can stop them. Number 7. You stand at the center of a storm they can't contain. They thought they could isolate you. What they didn't know is that truth travels faster than fear. Chosen one, the dark force's arrogance blinds them. They believe their schemes will slip past unnoticed, that people will keep their heads down and pretend not to see. But they're wrong. The people see through the cracks in the mask. They see the lies for what they are, and they rise not just for you, but for what you represent. Imagine this. You're a lone figure on a battlefield, surrounded by shadows. From the distance, it looks like you're outnumbered. But then, one by one, lights start appearing in the darkness. Torches, lanterns, flames. And suddenly you realize you were never truly alone. The glow comes from those who have been watching, waiting for the moment to step forward. A cause worth defending doesn't belong to one person. It belongs to everyone who's been wounded by the same enemy in different ways. That's why their anger isn't just sympathy, it's solidarity. It's the fire that comes when people recognize their own battles in yours. They know that if they let you fall, they're letting themselves fall too. You are the axis around which this storm turns. To harm you is to awaken something they can't put back to sleep, a force made of thousands of voices, hands, and hearts moving in unison. It's not a protest, it's a reckoning. And the ones who came for you are starting to realize that they haven't just made an enemy out of you. They've made an enemy out of the people. Here's the truth. Once the crowd understands the injustice, it can't be unseen. Once the wind shifts, the storm can't be stopped. The people's fury is not just noise, it's momentum. It's the universe gathering its army in human form. They set out to break you, but all they did was recruit your army. And chosen one, with every voice that joins this movement, your enemies are pushed further into the corner they built for themselves. They can't undo it now. You are not alone, and you never will be again. Number 8. The armor they can't pierce no matter how many times they strike. A predator's sharpest weapon is useless against prey. It cannot wound. Chosen one, the dark force moves with precision. They don't stumble into their attacks. They plan them. Every word is calculated, every trap designed with care. They weave intricate webs, convinced you'll step right into the center where they can devour you. But here's the part they never accounted for. You're not walking into their net. You're breaking it apart with every step. Imagine this. They build a cage, welding each bar with the confidence of someone who's certain it will hold. But when they try to lock you inside, the bars crumble to dust in their hands. That's what it's like when their weapons meet your resilience. They come at you expecting damage, but instead their own tools shatter on impact. It's not that you're untouched by battle, it's that every hit only sharpens your edge. They've tried to wound you, but what they intend for harm becomes undeniable proof of your strength. Their lies unravel under scrutiny. Their traps backfire, catching their own hands in the snares they set for you. And the more they fail, the more they begin to understand. They aren't just fighting you. They are fighting the force that shaped you, a force that has been here since before their schemes were ever born, a force that doesn't bend under manipulation or crumble under pressure. This isn't just about endurance, it's about inevitability. You are the storm they can't contain, the tide they can't turn back. Facts don't lie. Every attempt they've made to end you has only made you more unshakable. Every time they thought they'd found the perfect moment to destroy you, they've instead handed you proof that you can't be taken down. They came to write your ending, but they were only cast as extras in your rise. And chosen one, nothing terrifies them more than realizing their carefully written script is worthless now. Their strength falters, their control slips, and all they can do is watch as you stand, untouched, unbroken, and unmovable, inside armor they will never pierce. Number 9. The fire they meant to burn you built the steel in your spine. They thought they were breaking you. What they were really doing was forging you. Chosen one, the dark force has no idea how backwards their plan has been from the start. Every blow they've landed, every trap they've set, every lie they've told, they thought these things would weaken you. But pain doesn't destroy you. It doesn't hollow you out. It sharpens you. It strips away what doesn't belong until only the strongest parts of you remain. Imagine this. You're a diamond in the rough. To the untrained eye, you might look ordinary, but put you under intense pressure and you reveal your brilliance. That's what they've done without realizing it. Every attack has been a polishing strike. Every attempt to bury you has only pressed you deeper into the place where your strength forms. Scars are not evidence of defeat. They are the signature of survival. And yours, chosen one, are not hidden. They're worn openly, not as wounds to be pitied, but as proof that you've walked through the fire and didn't come out empty-handed. Each mark is a receipt that you've paid the price of endurance, and you're still here to collect what's yours. Their actions were meant to shatter you, but all they've done is build the steps you're now climbing. They think the pain they caused is a wound you'll carry forever. They don't realize it's the very fuel propelling you forward. The blows that should have stopped you became momentum. The nights that should have broken you became the training ground for your rise. When you've learned to make power from pain, there's nothing left they can take from you. That's the part they'll never understand. You've turned their cruelty into energy, their schemes into lessons, their betrayal into clarity. And now when they look at you, they don't see someone they've damaged, they see someone they can't reach anymore. So let them watch, chosen one. Let them see the unstoppable force they accidentally created. Because in trying to end you, they've written the first chapter of your greatest victory. Number 10. The board was never theirs, and they've already lost the game. Arrogance is the enemy's favorite weapon, and their fastest downfall. Chosen one, they strut like kings, convinced every move is theirs to command. They look at you as if you're just another piece on their board, a pawn to be pushed, trapped, or sacrificed. But here's the truth they'll never see coming. This is not their game. They're moving on a board they don't understand, against a player they can't outthink. Imagine this. They're playing checkers while you're playing chess. Every time they think they've cornered you, they realize too late you were 3 moves ahead. They launch their attacks with confidence, but each one lands exactly where it needed to for your next move. It's not luck, it's inevitability. They're following a script they didn't write, and the ending isn't theirs to control. A move made to erase you can just as easily clear the space for you to rise. That's the part they can't comprehend. Every time they strike, they're not removing you from the board. They're removing the very obstacles you needed gone. What they intended as annihilation becomes the perfect setup for your transformation. They don't realize that the harder they push, the more they reveal their own limitations. Every trap they build is a map of their thinking, and once you see the map, you can't be caught. They think they're erasing your presence, but all they're really doing is sweeping the ground clean for your next step upward. Imagine a storm tearing through a forest. Trees fall, the ground is ripped open, and it looks like destruction. But when the clouds clear, new space has been made for sunlight, for growth, for life that couldn't exist before. That's what their war against you has done. It's made room for your ascension. They can't win a game where your victory was written into every move they make. And deep down, they're starting to sense it. That's why they grow desperate. That's why their attacks become reckless. Because somewhere between their arrogance and your resilience, they've realized the truth. They're not the ones playing you. They've been playing themselves all along. Number 11, the fire they lit in you is burning across the horizon. They wanted your silence, but your survival became the loudest thing in the room. Chosen one, the dark force thought their attacks would end with you. They imagined that once they had you cornered, humiliated, or broken, the story would fade and the world would move on. But they underestimated the reach of truth. Your pain didn't stay locked inside you. It became visible. And when people saw it, something shifted. Imagine this. You're standing in the middle of a storm, lightning striking all around. Most would run for cover, but instead you plant your feet and hold your ground. Others see you there, unshaken, and slowly they step out of hiding too. Your defiance becomes a signal fire in the darkness, and its light spreads far beyond your own reach. Pain that doesn't break you becomes permission for others to rise. When you stand unbroken, you're not just surviving for yourself. You're showing others it can be done. Your courage becomes contagious. Your resilience becomes a blueprint. And that terrifies those who tried to crush you, because now the battle isn't just about you anymore. It's about everyone who sees themselves in your fight. They called you reckless for not bending. They called you stubborn for refusing to kneel. But every insult was overheard by someone who'd been told the same thing. And in that moment, they realized, if you can take every hit and keep standing, maybe they can too. They meant to make you an example of defeat. Instead, you became an example of defiance. This is the part of the story your enemies can't control. They can't stop the ripple effect. They can't silence the conversations you've sparked. The more you rise, the more others start questioning the rules they've been forced to live by. You were never just a target. You were always a catalyst. And now the transformation they feared most is spreading, because they didn't just attack you, chosen one, they woke an army. Number 12. The road they tried to block is now the one you'll lead them down. They wanted you to follow the path they made, so you built one they'll never be able to walk. Chosen one, you were never designed to follow. From the start, your steps have carved their own trail, and that alone made you dangerous to those who live by control. Every betrayal, every act of sabotage, every attempt to box you in, they weren't walls, they were fire. And that fire didn't consume you. It forged you. Imagine this. You're standing at a door they swore you'd never reach. You've got the key in your hand, and behind you is the wreckage of every trap they set, every scheme they ran. They thought those traps would stop you. Instead, each one became a rung in the ladder you climbed to get here. Obstacles don't block the chosen, they shape them into leaders. Now you stand at the threshold of history, not as the product of their system, not as someone molded by their approval, but as the architect of what comes next. You've stopped reacting to their moves and started creating your own world, a place they can't rewrite, control, or erase. And here's the part they can't face. The battle's already decided. They've thrown their hardest punches, launched their biggest attacks, and you're still here. Every time they see you rise, it reminds them that their power over you was always an illusion. Your rise isn't a question. It's a clock they can hear ticking. They know it's coming. They know it's inevitable. That's why they scramble now, why their strategies grow desperate. They're not fighting to win. They're fighting to delay what they already know they can't stop. The path forward is clear. You don't just walk it, you blaze it so bright that others can see it from miles away. And as you move, you carry the truth they tried to bury, that no attack, no betrayal, no amount of lies can rewrite the destiny of someone who refuses to kneel. You were never theirs to shape. You were always yours to define. And now, chosen one, you walk forward, not as their survivor, but as the force that will decide what comes next. And so, chosen one, we come full circle. What they meant to break you only proved you could not be broken. Their lies, their attacks, their fear, all of it became fuel for your rise. You stand now, not as their victim, but as the undeniable proof they failed. And if this message lit a fire in you, show it. Press like, hit subscribe, drop the number 77 in the comments, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Together we spread the truth. Together we make sure the light reaches every corner they tried to keep dark.